This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Friday, July 26th, 2024. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
A busy day at the White House for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
Israel has a right to defend itself.
I'm Clayton Neville.
Vice President Harris and former President Trump trading political jabs on the campaign trail. I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
Two of the top leaders of a powerful Mexican drug cartel are now in American custody. I'm Jeff McKay with the details.
A former Uvalde, Texas school police officer who was a part of the slow law enforcement response at Robb Elementary School has pleaded not guilty. I'm Haya Panjwani.
On Wall Street, it was a mixed day for stocks yesterday, but Ford shares had their worst day in 16 years. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
Vice President Harris says she's ready to debate Donald Trump.
Now it appears he's backpedaling.
Sagar Meghani at the White House.
All ahead on America in the Morning. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu meets with President Biden and Vice President Harris at the White House. Now a sit-down with former President Trump. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
A day after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addressed a joint session of Congress encouraging continued U.S. support in Israel's war with Hamas, he met with President Biden and Vice President Harris separately. President Biden was first.
Well, welcome back, Mr. Prime Minister. We got a lot to talk about. I think we should get to it, but the floor is yours.
Netanyahu had a few words for the president before the meeting started.
Mr. President, we've known each other for 40 years, and you've known every Israeli prime minister for 50 years, from Golda Meir. So from a proud Jewish Zionist to a proud Irish-American Zionist, I want to thank you for 50 years of public service and 50 years of support for the state of Israel.
As far as the meeting itself, State Department spokesman Matthew Miller said the main focus was ongoing negotiations surrounding a ceasefire deal
that would bring home the hostages, including the American hostages who remain held inside Gaza, that would alleviate the suffering of the Palestinian people, that we think would set the conditions for lasting peace and lasting regional stability.
This as Israel retaliates for Hamas's deadly October 7th attacks. Tens of thousands of Palestinians have been killed, but Hamas still holding hostages, and Israel pledging to eliminate the terror group. After meeting with the president, Netanyahu sat down with Vice President Harris. That meeting, of course, just days after President Biden bowed out of the presidential race and endorsed Harris for the presidency. She called the conversation with Netanyahu frank and constructive.
I told him that I will always ensure that Israel is able to defend itself, including from Iran and Iran-backed militias such as Hamas and Hezbollah.
Harris said she told the prime minister it's time to get a ceasefire deal done and added she won't be silent about suffering in Gaza.
I've said it many times, but it bears repeating. Israel has a right to defend itself, and how it does so matters.
With the Biden presidency in its final months and the war in the Middle East raging, Netanyahu making it a point to meet with former President Trump while he's in the U.S. He, of course, the Republican nominee for president. That meeting set at Mar-a-Lago, extra security in place in Palm Beach County, Florida, as the meeting catches attention from around the globe. I'm Clayton Neville.
Democrat presumptive nominee Vice President Kamala Harris spent part of the day on the campaign trail as former President Trump also continued to make his push for another term in the White House. John Stolnis has that from Washington.
Speaking to a teachers' union group, the vice president accused Trump and his supporters of pushing policies that take America backwards.
To failed trickle-down economic policies, back to union busting, back to tax breaks for billionaires. Donald Trump and his allies want to cut Medicare and Social Security.
In North Carolina Wednesday, Trump made his first pointed comments at Harris, who he presumes will be the Democratic nominee, hitting her for not attending Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's speech before Congress on Wednesday.
Even if you're against Israel or you're against the Jewish people, show up and listen to the concept. But she's totally against the Jewish people. And it amazes me how Jewish people will vote for the Democrats when they're being treated so disrespectfully and badly.
However, she did meet with Netanyahu yesterday, and Trump's own running mate, Senator J.D. Vance, also did not attend the speech due to campaigning. Trump also spoke on Fox and Friends yesterday and was asked if he's having second thoughts about Vance as his vice presidential pick.
He's fantastic. Yeah, no, it wouldn't have mattered. And I thought she was probably going to happen anyway, because I knew there was a palace coup going on. So, yeah, it wouldn't matter. No, he's doing a fantastic job. He goes around.
Meanwhile, Vance is taking heat for comments made back in 2021 in which he advocated giving parents more power in America than non-parents.
You should have more of an ability to speak your voice in our democratic republic than people who don't have kids. Let's face the consequences and the reality. If you don't have as much of an investment in the future of this country, maybe you shouldn't get nearly the same voice. Now, people will say, well, doesn't this mean that non-parents don't have as much of a voice as parents? Doesn't this mean that parents get a bigger say in how our democracy functions? Yes.
John Stolnis, Washington.
Drug cartel leaders busted. That when America in the Morning continues after these messages. America in the Morning, back now, beginning in the South, the nation's forecast with AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
The South does remain rather active for the day today as a complex but stagnant setup brings plentiful showers and some heavy thunderstorms across areas from South and East Texas to the Carolinas, with humid conditions fixed in place and a couple of storms around the region that will be capable of even sparking some localized severe thunderstorms at times with strong winds possible. While these storms will bring drought relief across a large zone through the weekend, day after day of rainfall and a storm total of several inches from the Carolinas and Georgia into parts of Texas, Arkansas, Mississippi, and Louisiana can still lead to flooding in areas where the ground simply cannot absorb all of the rain over the course of days. Those wet conditions will be nowhere to be found across the Northeast and the Great Lakes today, beyond a cool front that brings a pleasant end to the work week as lower humidity builds into many places, along with lots of sun and high temperatures mainly in the 70s and 80s. The dry conditions with sunshine and comfortable humidity can last right through the weekend, especially from the Mid-Atlantic into New England. An area that can instead face some organized severe weather will include a swath of territory around the northern plains, as thunderstorms developing toward the early evening hours may bring flooding downpours, strong winds, and some hail from eastern North Dakota through northern Minnesota. Otherwise, the west again faces spotty afternoon monsoon thundershowers from the Intermountain West into parts of the Rockies as dry and tolerably cooler weather spreads in the northwest. However, it stays hot from California's Central Valley to western Arizona. In Boston, a mostly sunny and less humid day is in store with a high of 83. For Houston, expect thunderstorms that can lead to flooding in some spots, with a high also reaching 83. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. The Department of Justice announces 2 top leaders of a powerful Mexican drug cartel are now in U.S. custody. America in the Morning's Jeff McKay has the story.
The 2 operatives, Ismael Zambada Garcia and Joaquin Guzman Lopez, are among the most powerful drug traffickers in Mexico and 2 of the top members of the dangerous Sinaloa cartel, one of the most dominant criminal organizations in Mexico and the Western Hemisphere. The group is responsible for a majority of cocaine and fentanyl businesses that move narcotics into the United States, Europe, and elsewhere. Garcia, who is known as El Mayo, has been pursued by the U.S. government for years, and someone the U.S. Department of Justice has wanted to apprehend for 2 decades. Guzman Lopez is the son of Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, who is spending life in an American prison for a myriad of drug offenses. Attorney General Merrick Garland said in a statement, "The Justice Department will not rest until every single cartel leader, member, and associate responsible for poisoning our communities is held accountable. Both Guzman Lopez and Garcia are being held in an El Paso, Texas jail." I'm Jeff McKay in Washington.
A pair of Texas police officers spent the day in court entering a plea to charges stemming from the Uvalde school shooting. Correspondent Panjwani reports.
Adrian Gonzalez was one of nearly 400 law enforcement personnel who responded to the scene, but then waited more than 70 minutes to confront the shooter inside the school.
He feels he's innocent. He feels all he did was show up to try to help those children. I mean, look, there is justifiable righteous anger in this situation. I mean, our position is, should that anger be directed to Mr. Gonzalez? Our humble opinion is that it should not.
Nico LaHood is Gonzalez's attorney and spoke to reporters shortly after leaving the courthouse.
There'll be a number of pretrial hearings to kind of see where we're at. The judge is going to want to gauge where we're at with the state and exchanging information, or them giving us the discovery and us filing motions that we may need once we look at the evidence. So this is going to be a long process. We've been notified that there's an enormous amount of evidence, and so that's going to take some time to get through.
That audio is courtesy of KSAT. Teary-eyed family members were in the courtroom in the small Texas town to watch as Gonzalez was arraigned on charges of abandoning and failing to protect children who were killed and wounded. I'm Panjwani.
When we return on America in the Morning, inflation numbers due, and look for this automaker to slash prices after these messages. This is America in the Morning. The Business Report is brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments is a fiduciary, always putting clients' interests first. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
On Wall Street, it was a mixed day for stocks yesterday, but Ford shares had their worst day in 16 years. I'm Jessica Ettinger. Wall Street opens this morning after stocks tried to rebound from Wednesday's losses. In the end, yesterday, they clawed only some of them back. OpenAI getting into the search business, and that sent Google parent Alphabet shares lower, tanking the NASDAQ. Ford shares plunged. They had their worst day since 2008. After a disappointing quarter, it sold more cars, but had to repair so many it had already sold that the numbers didn't work out. Plus, if you're in the market to buy a Ford, you may see some better prices soon.
It's really that, like the fear that pricing is about to really come down hard. Inventory levels for Ford, 94 days. Inventory should be around 50 to 60. You got a bunch of dealerships with a lot of cars on stock. And the fear is they're going to have to discount them heavily to get them off.
RBC's Tom Narayan on CNBC. The Kroger-Albertsons grocery mega merger on hold after a Colorado judge issued an order temporarily blocking it. U.S. economic growth came in hotter than forecast in the second quarter. It was the first look. The economy's doing fine. No recession in sight. Inside that report, some great news on inflation.
There's some really good things in this report. A huge decline in the inflation numbers from the prior quarter that has to make the Fed think that it's at or close to a point that it could be cutting interest rates. And the consumption numbers are okay. Consumers seem to be holding up here.
CNBC senior economics reporter Steve Leisman, we get another inflation read this morning.
All right, we've heard about autos, inflation. Let's go over to the airlines, specifically Southwest.
You know, Southwest is coming off a profit plunge in the last quarter, and some activist investors seem to be forcing some urgent changes to bring in more money for the airline.
Starting next year, Southwest Airlines, for the first time in its 57 years of flying, will be offering assigned seating. It will also be offering, for the first time ever, business class seats with extra legroom. So you're looking at a differentiated cabin as opposed to everything that we've seen since 1967 on a Southwest Airlines plane, which is one type of seat throughout the entire plane, no assigned seating.
CNBC's Phil LeBeau. On today's watch list, we get the latest on inflation. It's the PCE, the Personal Consumption Expenditures Report for June. We get the latest numbers on personal income and spending, a new read on consumer sentiment. Earnings are coming from Bristol Myers Squibb, Colgate, Palmolive, and 3M. The Summer Olympics in Paris opening ceremony is on today. And with sports betting now legal in more than 40 states, the gambling apps are gearing up for wagering. New in theaters tonight, Disney Marvel's Deadpool and Wolverine.
All right, thank you. CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. Trump-Harris debate when America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Vice President Kamala Harris says she's ready to debate Donald Trump, but as Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports, getting both candidates together may not be easy.
Vice President Harris says she's ready to debate Donald Trump.
Voters deserve to see the split screen that exists in this race on a debate stage.
Harris notes Trump and President Biden agreed on 2 debates. One already happened, and the next was to be hosted by ABC News on September 10th.
Now it appears he's backpedaling.
Trump has said he'd prefer to shift that debate to Fox News, but would still be willing to debate Harris more than once.
I'm ready. Let's go.
Sagar Meghani at the White House.
Apparently, miracles can happen in Las Vegas, where a dog that went missing in 2015 has just been found. Correspondent Lisa Dwyer has that.
The owners of the now 11-year-old Gizmo the Chihuahua call it a miracle that they are reunited with their pet 9 years after he escaped from a faulty gate in the backyard. Judith Monterez says she got an email notification July 17th after Gizmo was dropped off at an animal hospital and his microchip was scanned. She says she wept when she read the email and drove straight to the hospital. Their long-awaited reunion comes as a new Las Vegas City ordinance is set to take effect on August 1st, requiring microchips for pet cats and dogs. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
America in the Morning for Friday, July 26, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay, senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has visited the White House to discuss the war in Gaza. Norman Hall, Washington.
One man in custody after a massive wildfire sparks evacuations in California. I'm Clayton Neville.
The Summer Olympics about to get underway. I'm Steve Futterman in Paris.
Lloyd Austin says it was no surprise after intercepting both Chinese and Russian military aircraft. I'm Pamela Furr.
California's governor has ordered state agencies to start dismantling homeless encampments. I'm Jackie Quinn.
Southwest Airlines has announced it plans to drop the open boarding system it has used for more than 50 years. I'm Mike Hempel.
Back after these messages. Welcome back to America in the Morning, the nation's forecast, with AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Any risk for organized severe thunderstorms looks to be confined largely to the far northern tier of the nation today, with storms building very late this afternoon or more likely early this evening, able to produce damaging hail, downpours that may lead to flooding, and wind gusts that can bring down trees and power lines from eastern North Dakota into northwestern Minnesota. Outside of this activity, some afternoon monsoon thundershowers will once again extend southward and westward across parts of the Intermountain West from Idaho and northeastern Nevada through much of Wyoming, mainly western parts of Colorado, and the high ground of Arizona and New Mexico, with dry and more comfortable conditions for the Pacific Northwest as hot conditions persist from the Central Valley of California into western Arizona. East of there, the south remains quite active today, with a persistent weather pattern again favoring numerous and widespread showers and some drenching thunderstorms from eastern and southern Texas across the southeast, as a couple of disturbances in the area combine to enhance both the moisture in the air and the ability for storms, some perhaps locally severe with strong winds, to form. The setup supporting these downpours likely remains in place through the weekend, with several inches of storm total rainfall expected for the Carolinas, southeast Texas, and parts of Louisiana, Arkansas, and Mississippi, with a more general 1 to 2 inches of storm total rain elsewhere. For areas from the Great Lakes region through the Northeast and even much of the Mid-Atlantic, today instead brings an incredibly nice day to end the work week for most, with low humidity, a good deal of sunshine, and high temperatures from the 70s into the 80s for many, all not all that far from historical average highs in many places. Some of these zones will have the nice weather last right through the weekend. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu meets with President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris following his address to Congress. Correspondent Norman Hall reports his next stop will be Florida to meet with former President Trump.
Welcome back, Mr. Prime Minister. We got a lot to talk about. I think we should get to it.
It's Netanyahu's first White House visits in 2020. In addition to his talks with Biden and a separate meeting with the likely Democratic nominee, Vice President Kamala Harris.
So I just had a frank and constructive meeting with Prime Minister Netanyahu. I told him that I will always ensure that Israel is able to defend itself, including from Iran and Iran-backed militias such as Hamas and Hezbollah. I also expressed with the Prime Minister my serious concern about the scale of human suffering in Gaza, including the death of far too many innocent civilians.
Prime Minister will also stop in Florida to meet with GOP presidential nominee Donald Trump. Netanyahu's visit to Washington has been met with anti-war protest, including a die-in at nearby Lafayette Park across from the White House. Norman Hall, Washington.
Arrest in connection to a California wildfire that's burned more than 45,000 acres in the midst of a dry and dangerous fire season. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
The firefighting effort is massive as CAL FIRE works to put out the blaze and local authorities issue evacuation orders. About 4,000 people evacuated in Butte County, California. The park fire spread from about 1,400 acres burned Wednesday night near Chico to more than 45,000 acres outside Sacramento Thursday morning.
So the problem is we've had temperatures between 100 and 110 degrees for the past 3 weeks every single day. So it is just very, very hot. It's bone dry, and pretty much every spark that hits the ground is going to turn into a fire. And so those are the conditions we're dealing with right now.
Rick Carhart with CAL FIRE told ABC News the conditions are tough for firefighters to work in.
The terrain, there's some very, very steep terrain that we're also dealing with. So access itself is an issue. There are a lot of places on this fire where we cannot just drive a fire engine up to.
He told ABC it's a process.
We're having to make access and just hike up and down very steep hills. And so we're relying on our hand crews, and we're relying on our air resources to deal with the fire in those places.
As crews work to put out the fire, the Butte County District Attorney is prosecuting a man who's accused of sparking the blaze. A 42-year-old jailed after he was identified as the person seen pushing a flaming car into a gully on Wednesday. The park fire, the latest in a series of wildfires out west. The largest fire now burning in the U.S., Oregon's Durkee Fire. It's burned at least 240,000 acres. I'm Clayton Neville.
It's estimated over 1 billion people from around the world will be tuning in to the 2024 Summer Olympics. 10,000 athletes take part in an opening ceremony in a way that's never been done before. Steve Futterman reports from the Olympic Games in Paris.
This is the day they've been waiting for many years here in Paris. The official opening of the Olympic Games.
Paris 24, Los Angeles 20.
That was the official announcement in 2017. This is the third time the Olympics have taken place here. The last time was 100 years ago in 1924. The movie Chariots of Fire is based on those Olympics. The first Paris Olympics took place in 1900 and produced two breakthrough moments. Olympic historian David Wolochinsky.
In 1900, it was the first time that a woman won an Olympic championship. Charlotte Cooper of Great Britain, also the first black athlete, competed in the rugby tournament.
Most Parisians seem to welcome the Summer Games.
Yeah, I think we have some good athletes, and we're really happy to play in our city.
Although we found some people who would prefer it be somewhere else.
It's a lot of things going on, and it's going to be a little bit complicated to move around.
Tonight's opening ceremony will be different than any previous opening ceremony. Instead of taking place in a stadium, it will be held along a 3.7-mile stretch of the Seine River. The highlight, 160 boats carrying the athletes. More than 300,000 people are expected to gather along the route. The biggest concern is security. Officials are deploying more than 45,000 law enforcement officials. Nicole Deal heads security for the U.S. Olympic team.
There's always something that the U.S. is involved in that could impact the athletes just because we're wearing USA.
The U.S. will have the largest contingent, just under 600. The flag bearers for the U.S. tonight will be L.A. Lakers star LeBron James and tennis star Coco Gauff. It will be Gauff's first Olympics. In Tokyo 3 years ago, she got COVID and could not compete. She is very excited.
It just means a lot. I was very emotional when I was talking to my mom about it. And yeah, I did cry.
Among the potential stars for the U.S. team are swimmer Katie Ledecky, track star Noah Lyles, and of course gymnast Simone Biles. At any Olympics, terrorism is always the wild card. French organizers hope in just over 2 weeks, these Olympics will be remembered for their athletic competition. I'm Steve Futterman at the Summer Olympics in Paris.
Allegations of corruption within the Drug Enforcement Administration. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. Welcome back. This is America in the Morning. Follow-up to a story we brought you yesterday as we learn more about the 2 Russian and 2 Chinese military bombers that were intercepted by American air defenses. New details from correspondent Pamela Furr.
They're always testing us, and that's no surprise to any of us.
That's Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin speaking at the Pentagon Thursday.
Closely monitored these aircraft, tracked the aircraft, intercepted the aircraft, and which demonstrates that our forces are at the ready all the time, and we have very good surveillance capabilities.
Austin did note, however, that the joint flight underscored the growing cooperation between Russia and China.
It's the first time that we've seen these 2 countries fly together like that. They didn't enter our airspace. I think the closest point of approach was about 200 miles off of our coast.
Austin went on to tell reporters this is a relationship the U.S. has been concerned about, mostly because of the possibility of China supplying support to Russia's war in Ukraine.
If it happens again, if there's any kind of challenge from any direction, I have every confidence that NORTHCOM and NORAD will be at the ready and will be able to intercept.
I'm Pamela Furr.
In California, where homelessness has become a severe issue, Governor Gavin Newsom announces an order to remove homeless encampments from several major cities. Correspondent Jackie Quinn reports.
California's governor has ordered state agencies to start dismantling homeless encampments that line freeways and fill parks all across the state. Word began spreading quickly among the several thousands of people who live in tents and makeshift shelters on Skid Row in Los Angeles that Governor Gavin Newsom is ordering homeless encampments be removed from all state land, and he's pressuring cities to clear their sidewalks and shopping centers as well. The governor's order comes a month after the U.S. Supreme Court said cities can enforce bans against people sleeping outdoors in public spaces. California has roughly 1/3 of the nation's homeless population. I'm Jackie Quinn.
A book written by Donald Trump's choice to be his vice president is getting new life. A spokesperson for HarperCollins told the Associated Press that more than 650,000 copies of Hillbilly Elegy have been sold since Trump's endorsement July 15th. Hillbilly Elegy is the story of J.D. Vance growing up in Ohio and his family roots in rural Kentucky. The story was made into a feature film in 2020. Vance's book had already sold more than 3 million copies before Trump chose him for the Republican ticket. America in the Morning continues. Documents from the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration obtained by the Associated Press show a culture of corruption among some of its agents. Correspondent Donna Warder reports.
The DEA documents obtained by the Associated Press describe federal narcotics agents involved in a worldwide pursuit of binge drinking, illicit sex, and money laundering. Many of the documents focus on ongoing investigations following the 2020 arrest of former agent Jose Irizarry, who's serving 12 years in a federal prison for money laundering for the very Colombian drug cartels he was sworn to police. Other agents Irizarry claims were also involved were either quietly disciplined or fired. In a WhatsApp chat group, agents talked about their world debauchery tour and forcible rape. In a 2018 case, an agent was arrested for allegedly raping a 23-year-old woman in a hotel in Madrid, but U.S. officials never spoke to the woman, and the agent was flown home hours after his arrest. A Spanish judge eventually dismissed the case, and the agent returned to duty. The DEA has refused to discuss its handling of the case. Donna Warder, Washington.
As you're probably aware, Microsoft's Bing search engine is nowhere near as popular as Google, but it looks like it's getting a major AI facelift. Here's Chuck Palm with that in today's Tech News.
According to the website TechCrunch, Microsoft has just announced a huge update to Bing that overhauls the results of the search engine into an AI summary. Now, when you enter a search query into Bing, the results page will pop up a primarily AI-generated answer detailing all the curated sources that have been tapped to get that result. In a blog post, Microsoft said, "This new experience combines the foundation of Bing search results with the power of large and small language models, understands the search query, reviews millions of sources of information, and then dynamically matches the content and generates search results in a new AI-generated layout to fulfill the intent of the user's query more effectively." Microsoft said they would also be rolling this out slowly, as not all users may be interested in an AI-generated search summary. Bitcoin trading flat about 65,000, and Ethereum dropping nearly 5% to 3,170. For more tech news, visit allthetoptech.tech. I'm Chuck Palm.
Checking in with Friday Sports, here's Robert Workman.
Dylan Cease of the Padres threw the second no-hitter of the season, shutting down the Nationals 3-0 yesterday afternoon. The right-hander walked 3 and fanned 9 for his first no-no and just the second in franchise history.
It feels so remarkable and hard to believe. So to be able to do it and go out and experience it, I really don't even know how to feel. I'm just happy.
Ha-Seong Kim cleared the bases with a 2-out single in the first inning to account for all of the scoring on the day. Rays blasted the Blue Jays 13-0. Taj Bradley with 6 shutout innings, extending his scoreless streak to 23, combining on a 2-hitter while his teammates pounded out 16 hits. Brandon Lau put one of them into the upper deck. Tigers shut out the Guardians 3-0. 6 pitchers combined on a 4-hitter. Javier Baez belted a 3-run dinger. Rangers snagged the White Sox. Max Scherzer with 9 whiffs, moving into 10th place on the all-time strikeout list, just ahead of his former teammate Justin Verlander. Dodgers got back-to-back jacks from Nick Ahmed and Shohei Ohtani on consecutive pitches in the 8th inning to take down the Giants. Clayton Kershaw went 4 innings in his first start since shoulder surgery last fall. A's rallied past the Angels, Mets nipped the Braves in 10 innings, and the Orioles coughed up a 6-run lead but came back to edge the Marlins in 10. The trade deadline is next Tuesday. Miami sent lefty reliever A.J. Puck to the Diamondbacks for 2 minor leaguers, and the Mariners are said to be close to a deal for Rays outfielder Randy Arozarena. A popular name in trade talks, A's all-star closer Mason Miller landed on the injured list after breaking his pinky on his non-throwing hand. At the Paris Olympics, U.S. women's soccer blanked Zambia 3-0, 2 goals from Mallory Swanson and 1 from Trinity Rodman. The U.S. beat Uruguay to reach the quarterfinals in rugby sevens, where they fell to Australia. The first medal events will be on Saturday. That's Friday Sports.
Thank you, Robert. When we return on America in the Morning, changes at this airline and who's headed for the picket line. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Thanks for listening. Big changes are coming to Southwest Airlines, which will be breaking a 50-year tradition. Correspondent Mike Hempen reports.
Southwest Airlines has announced it plans to drop the open boarding system it has used for more than 50 years and will start assigning passengers to seats. That's how the other big airlines do it. Southwest says it has been running tests and surveying customers. Its research shows that preferences have changed over the years, and most travelers now want to know where they are sitting before they get to the airport. Southwest's unusual boarding process started as a fast way to load passengers and limit the time that planes and crews spent sitting idly on the ground, not making money. It allowed the company to add a few more flights to its daily schedule. Many of Southwest's loyal customers love open seating, but the airline thinks they will adapt. I'm Mike Hempel.
A union representing video game actors says it will be going on strike. Entertainment correspondent Margie Zaraletta tells us why.
Video game actors who are covered under the union SAG-AFTRA will strike after nearly 2 years of negotiations with gaming giants that include Activision, Warner Brothers, and Disney. Union negotiators say gains were made over wages and job safety, but they could not reach agreement about artificial intelligence. SAG-AFTRA President Fran Drescher says members will not approve a contract that will allow companies to abuse AI. A representative for the studios did not return a request for comment. I'm Archie Zaraletta.
Marvel. Out with a new movie, definitely not for the kids. Kevin Carr has a sneak peek at Deadpool and Wolverine.
After a few stumbles in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, an unlikely hero might end up saving the franchise.
Your little cinematic universe is about to change forever. I'm the Messiah.
The third Deadpool movie is the first under the Disney brand, and it also taps into the classic characters from the 20th Century Fox films, most notably Wolverine.
Disney brought him back. They're going to make him do this till he's 90.
Hugh Jackman is back, again, as an alternate Logan, and it's his chemistry with Deadpool activist and star Ryan Reynolds that anchors the film.
Your universe is about to change forever. You really are God's perfect idiot, aren't you?
The answer is yes.
Admittedly, the story is a bit flimsy, with Deadpool being tapped to save the sacred timeline in a wild and wacky romp into the R-rated multiverse.
This Wolverine let down his entire world. Our entire world needs you.
But story is kind of unimportant here. It's really an excuse to have fun and see a load of characters and cameos on screen together.
Let's give the people what they came for.
Make no mistake, Deadpool and Wolverine is a full-blown comedy disguised as a messy and often inappropriately violent action film. But for those who've been waiting years for something like this, it's an absolute blast.
Don't just stand there, you ape. Give me a hand up. Nope. I'm actually okay, thank you very much.
Deadpool and Wolverine gets 4 variants out of 5. I'm Kevin Carr, and that's the way I see it.
America in the Morning for Friday, July 26, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay, senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.